People of God, hear this. Nothing in your life is wasted. No tear you've cried, no pain you've endured, no valley you've walked through has been unseen by the eyes of the Almighty. You were not forgotten in the fire. You were forged in it. You ask, why the pain? Why the suffering? Why did I have to walk through the wilderness? But I tell you, there is a mystery in your pain, a divine purpose hidden like treasure in the soil of your affliction. The enemy wants you to believe your pain is pointless, that the breaking was for nothing, that the silence meant God had turned away, but heaven declares otherwise. The pain was not punishment, it was preparation. Joseph was betrayed, thrown into a pit, and forgotten in a prison, but it was all part of the journey to the palace. Ruth lost everything, but in her sorrow she clung to the God of Israel and became part of the lineage of the Messiah. David was hunted like a dog, hiding in caves, but through his suffering he was shaped into a king after God's own heart. Do you see it now? Your pain was not a detour, it was the path. The crushing wasn't to destroy you, it was to release the fragrance of purpose. The fire was not to consume you, it was to purify what could not enter the next season. You were being prepared. Heaven was writing a story through your scars, and the very thing that tried to bury you will be the thing that lifts you up. Pain is not punishment, it's preparation. This is a truth hidden beneath the surface of every trial, every wound, every lonely night. It is a divine mystery, often misunderstood by those walking through the fire. When pain comes, the natural mind cries out for relief, for escape, for answers. But heaven often works in paradoxes. The very things we run from are the things God uses to shape us. Pain, in the hands of God, is not cruel. It is precise. It is purposeful. It is the chisel of the master sculptor, shaping the rough stone of your life into something beautiful, something eternal. When Joseph was betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery, it would have been easy to see it as punishment. When he was falsely accused and thrown into prison, his cries must have echoed through the walls. Questions, confusion, sorrow. But those years were not wasted. They were not void. They were preparation. Every injustice, every moment of solitude in that prison cell was forging in him the strength to stand in Pharaoh's court. Without the pit, there would have been no palace. Without the betrayal, there would have been no breakthrough. So often, we confuse the presence of pain with the absence of God, but that is a lie. The truth is that God is often closest when he seems most silent. Like a teacher during a test, he is still in the room. And the test is not to fail you, but to reveal what has been placed inside you. Pain is one of heaven's refining tools. It burns away the superficial, exposes the counterfeit, and draws out what is real. In our comfort we become complacent. In our struggle we are awakened. We are forced to lean not on our own understanding, but on his. Think of Moses. He spent 40 years in the wilderness, not as a punishment, but as preparation. God was not done with him, he was getting him ready. Before he could lead a nation through the desert, he had to learn how to survive the desert himself. The man who would one day stand before Pharaoh had to first be broken of pride, of self-reliance, of everything Egypt had taught him. It was in the wilderness that he encountered the burning bush. It was in the wilderness that he heard the call, and it was because of the wilderness that he was ready to answer it. We often pray for destiny, but resist the road that leads to it. We want the promise without the process, the crown without the cross, but that is not the way of the kingdom. Jesus himself, the Son of God, learned obedience through what he suffered. The pain of Gethsemane, the agony of the cross, these were not signs of divine abandonment, but divine fulfillment. It was through the pain that redemption came. It was through the suffering that salvation was birthed. If even the sinless one walked through pain to fulfill his purpose, how much more will we? What you are walking through is not without meaning. The ache in your soul, the unanswered prayers, the sleepless nights, God sees it all. And He is not punishing you, He is preparing you. There are levels of strength, compassion, wisdom, and authority that cannot be reached without passing through the fire. The pain trains your spirit, teaches you how to stand, how to see, how to discern what really matters. It strips away the excess and brings you to the core of who you are meant to be. Your trials are the pathway to purpose. This is not just an inspirational phrase, it is a spiritual reality. Every step you've taken through hardship, every season of loss or betrayal, every time life seemed to break you, it was leading somewhere. There is nothing random about the challenges you face when your life is in the hands of God. He does not waste pain, and He does not lead you into battles without intending to bring something greater from them. Trials are not detours from your destiny. They are the road that leads you directly into it. From the very beginning of Scripture, this pattern is clear. Abraham was called to leave everything he knew, to walk a road of uncertainty, facing delay after delay, testing after testing. Each trial was not designed to destroy him, but to develop him. It was through those trials that Abraham became the father of faith. Without the waiting, there would have been no deep trust. Without the impossible, there would have been no revelation of the God who makes all things possible. The trial was the teacher, and the lesson was faith. The same was true for Esther. Her people faced annihilation. She faced the real threat of death just to enter the king's presence. Yet it was in the crisis that her true purpose was revealed. For such a time as this, those words were not spoken in comfort, but in the context of a dire, urgent trial. Her bravery, her intercession, her destiny, all of it came to life because of the pressure, not in spite of it. Had there been no threat, there would have been no need for her voice. The trial pulled purpose out of her that would have otherwise remained dormant. Purpose is not always discovered in a moment of clarity or revelation. Sometimes it is unearthed by the weight of adversity. Like gold that must be dug from the earth, your calling is often hidden beneath layers of hardship and resistance. The process of trial strips away what is unnecessary and draws out what is essential. It confronts your limitations, tests your faith, and teaches you to rely on a strength that is not your own. Through it all, you are being positioned, you are being refined, you are being aligned with something greater than you could imagine. Think of how a seed must be buried in darkness before it can break through the soil and grow. That dark place, that hidden season, is not the end. It is the beginning. The breaking is what activates the life within. So too, your trials may feel like burying, but they are actually the beginning of something sacred. The moments when you feel crushed are the moments when something deeper is being planted in you. Patience, endurance, vision, courage, compassion. These are not learned in times of ease. They are forged in trial. Even Paul, the great apostle, wrote that it was through his afflictions that the power of God was made manifest. The thorn in his flesh, the beatings, the imprisonments, they were not evidence of failure, but of calling. He understood that his trials were not obstacles, they were openings into deeper revelation, deeper intimacy with God, and deeper effectiveness in his purpose. He could say, "I count it all joy," not because the suffering felt good, but because he saw what it was producing. Trials expose what is weak so it can be replaced with what is strong. They uncover false foundations so you can build on what is eternal. They reveal idols so your heart can be fully aligned with the will of God. And through it all, they lead you, sometimes painfully, often slowly, to the very purpose for which you were created. The breaking leads to birthing. This is a divine principle woven into creation itself and echoed through the stories of every man and woman who has walked the path of destiny. Breaking is not the end, it is the beginning. It is the point where everything familiar shatters, where control slips away, and where your strength is no longer enough. But it is in that very moment, when you are at your lowest, your weakest, your most fragile, that something sacred begins to form. It is not visible at first, it is hidden beneath the pain, but the process has begun. In the natural world, before a child is born, there must be labor, there must be pain, there must be pressure. The womb, once a place of safety, becomes tight, uncomfortable, and eventually unbearable. The mother cries out, her body strained, her breath short, but that pain is not meaningless. It signals that something new is being delivered. In the same way, when your spirit begins to break under the weight of sorrow, betrayal, or loss, it is a signal that something is being born within you. A new strength, a new vision, a new chapter that could not begin without the breaking. The olive must be crushed to release the oil. The grain must be ground to make the bread. The wine comes only when the grape is pressed. These are not acts of destruction. They are acts of transformation. God uses breaking not to end you, but to bring forth what you could not produce on your own. It is through the breaking that your deeper calling is unlocked. It is the pain that opens the gate to purpose. Consider the story of Hannah. She was barren year after year and mocked for it. Her soul was broken. Her prayers were soaked in tears. Yet it was through that breaking that she cried out to God in a way she never had before. And from that cry came Samuel, a prophet, a judge, a leader for a nation. If Hannah had never been broken, she might never have birthed what changed the destiny of Israel. Her breaking was not a sign of God's neglect, but of his deeper work. The same truth echoed in the life of Peter. Bold, impulsive, full of confidence in his own strength. Until he denied the Lord 3 times, that night something in Peter shattered. The rooster crowed, and he wept bitterly. He was broken, ashamed, undone. But that breaking was not the end. It was the beginning. For from that broken place, Peter rose not as the same man, but as one filled with boldness and fire. On the day of Pentecost, it was Peter who stood and preached, and 3,000 souls were added to the kingdom. The breaking led to birthing. Many people resist the breaking. They fight it, numb it, run from it. But what they don't realize is that the very thing they fear is the doorway to their greatest transformation. It is in the breaking that pride dies, ego is stripped away, and the heart is made soft and ready for the Spirit's work. What once was hidden beneath layers of self, protection, and control is now exposed to the light. And in that exposure, in that vulnerability, something divine is conceived. Jesus himself was broken. His body was beaten. His soul anguished in Gethsemane, his spirit poured out on the cross. But from his breaking came the birthing of redemption for all mankind. His death made way for resurrection. His wounds brought healing. His sorrow birthed salvation. If the Son of God walked the road of breaking to bring forth life, then surely our breaking is not without holy purpose. God forges greatness in the fire. It is not in comfort that character is shaped, and it is not in ease that destiny is refined. The fire is the place where everything is tested, where what is weak is consumed, and what is strong is revealed. It is not a place many choose willingly, yet it is the place God chooses for those he desires to use in mighty ways. The fire is not sent to destroy, but to purify. It is the furnace where the raw is transformed into the refined, where the common becomes consecrated. In the days of old, blacksmiths would place metal into fire, heating it until it glowed red. Then came the pounding, strike after strike with the hammer. The sound of iron on iron echoed as the shape of the weapon began to emerge. But without the fire, the metal could not be shaped. Without the fire, it would remain hard, resistant, and unformed. The same is true for those whom God calls. He does not leave them in their natural state. He brings them through fire so that every impurity can be burned away and the true shape of their calling can take form. Daniel's friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were literally thrown into a furnace because they would not bow to the idols of their age. It was in the fire, not outside of it, that the fourth man appeared. It was in the fire that the presence of God was revealed in a way they had never known before. The heat that was meant to consume them became the very environment of their elevation. The fire proved their faith, and in the end they came out without even the smell of smoke on them. Those who are forged in the fire carry a strength and authority that cannot be imitated. Moses spent years in the wilderness, stripped of the riches of Egypt. From the palace to the desert, from status to obscurity, yet it was there, in the heat and the silence of the wilderness, that God appeared to him in the burning bush. The fire of God spoke purpose into a man who thought his time was over. But God was not done. He was just beginning. Moses would become the deliverer, but only after the fire had done its work. Greatness is not built in public. It is formed in the unseen places, in the lonely hours, in the furnace of surrender. The prophet Isaiah saw the Lord high and lifted up, and he cried out, "Woe is me, for I am a man of unclean lips." Then came the seraph with a burning coal from the altar, touching his lips and purging him. Only then was he commissioned with the words, "Whom shall I send?" The call followed the cleansing. The fire preceded the sending. Before the message could be released through his mouth, the fire had to touch it. That is how God works. He does not send what he has not first refined. Even the early church was birthed in fire. On the day of Pentecost, tongues of fire rested upon them. That fire did not burn them. It empowered them. It transformed them from fearful men into bold witnesses. Peter, who once denied the Lord, stood before thousands declaring the truth with power. The fire of the Spirit had changed them. They were no longer the same. The greatness that lay within them had been awakened, not by knowledge alone, but by the purifying presence of divine fire. When God chooses to use a life, he does not begin with the platform. He begins with the fire. He does not hand out crowns without first shaping character. The trials, the heat, the pressing, they are all signs that God is working. The greater the fire, the deeper the work. What feels like breaking is often forging. What feels like loss is the removal of what cannot remain. And what feels like delay is often the season of divine preparation where heaven is shaping a vessel fit for his glory.